So our next presenter is Blas Ozán. He is an international relations and communication double major, and he is a third-year student from Buenos Aires, Argentina. So please welcome.
¿Cómo se puede poner?
Como PowerPoint. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you for coming in today. My name is Blas. I'm going to talk about Argentina's migration policy, specifically through the neo-realist school of thought. So this is a neo-realist approach to progressive lawmaking. I wanted to start this presentation with something that you might be familiar of if you read the news in late January. I think it was published in New York Times, the BBC, and a lot of international outlets about this boom that we had in Argentina, having Russian nationals immigrating to our country. As you can read here, about 4,500 Russians arrived in January, which was 4 times the amount of people that we had in the previous year. And nonetheless, Buenos Aires, two of the major hospitals in Buenos Aires declared that Russian moms were accounted for between the 25 and 45% of the newborn babies during January. So why would a family from Russia fly all the way to Argentina, almost the exact opposite side of the war? Tickets are more than $1,000 per person. Why? And why Argentina would let them do this? So let's talk a little bit about Argentina. So you can see it here highlighted in blue. It is the map of the Americas. Argentina is the 8th largest state in the world. It's the 2nd in South America, following Brazil. But at the same time, it's around the 30th most populated in the world. And we're going to talk more about this in my presentation. Also, it's the first immigrant recipient country in South America, and it also has a strategic location relative to sea lanes. As you can see, it's between the South Pacific and the South Atlantic Oceans. So all of this led me to my research question, which is, why has Argentina adopted progressive immigration laws despite the anti-immigration trend worldwide? And how did I approach my research? It was with this argument that the pro-immigration legislature of Argentina is not only a product of the state's foundational ideas, but it's also one root in the potential military conflicts that the state may face in the late 21st century. And the Argentine citizenship is not about the rights, but it's more about the duties, and I'm going to expand on this. So I approach my argument and my research question through the lens of neorealism, as I mentioned earlier, and more specific through the lens of defensive realism, which is a school of thought that came up around the 70s as a response to classical realism. My methodology, I did a thorough analysis of historical events from the state formation of Argentina until current days. I also analyzed legal documents such as the Argentinian Constitution and the National Defense Law, and I also did an analysis of the census data, which at the time I did my research was the 2010. Now we have the 2021, which I have to update. So let's talk a little bit about the population of Argentina. To the left, you can see this map of the entire country from the 2010 census. It's a population density map. You can see here, this is the Patagonia region. It's clearly less populated than the rest of the country. And Argentina also has what it's called in the social sciences as a primate city, which is Buenos Aires, concentrates, which is this part, concentrates around a third of the country's entire population. And then on the right, you can see a projection made from the same data that estimates the population growth. I want you to pay attention to the purple line. It's a clear decrease from the 2010 to 2040. So it's a projection from the next for the next 2 decades. Then the green line, it's the natality rate. So we can also see a decrease. The only line that is increasing is the mortality rate. So Argentina is clearly facing not so great decades in the coming decades for its population. So now let's talk about what the Constitution of Argentina says. This is the text from the 1994 Constitution, but it was also present the same exact text in the first Constitution from the 1853. So Article 14 of our Constitution speaks of all the inhabitants of the nations are entitled to the following rights. So I want to pay the rights are not important here for this presentation, but I want you to pay attention to the language that uses the article. It's the first time that it's present in the Constitution here in Article 14, but then it repeats over in the following articles. And then Article 20th, it speaks of the foreigners' rights. This is very important for the research because it says that foreigners enjoy in the territory of the nation all the civil rights of a citizen. And that's why I am making the argument that the citizenship is not about the rights, but it's about the duties. And clearly, why I'm going to say that Argentina has a very progressive immigration policy, because you can claim residency after residing 2 contiguous years. And even so, if you spend less time, you can also argue if you want to go to the Supreme Court of Justice all the way there. You can make the argument. So, yes, why it's about the duties and not about the rights? It's because our national defense law says that the national defense constitutes a right and a duty for all Argentines in the manner and terms established by such law. But then more specifically in Article 25, it says that all visible and or legal persons, so it's also using very vague terminology like the inhabitants of the nation that we see in the Constitution, but says all visible and or legal persons subject to Argentine law may be required to comply with obligations aimed at ensuring national defense. So our last military conflict was in the 82 against the UK. So we didn't have any recent approach to our national defense law, but nonetheless it is there and it can be used by the state conflicts. You may think of South America as a very Pacific region in the world. Nonetheless, we do have 2, if you want to say 3, clear military conflicts that we may face in the 21st century. First one, I'm going to talk about Chile. So we are neighboring countries. We share our longest border with. Right now, the border was usually defined by the Andean peaks, but as of now, we still have around 60 miles, 100 kilometers of undefined border with Chile in the Patagonia region, so the less populated area of Argentina. You can see here the claims. In red, you have the Chilean claim, and in blue, you have the Argentinian claim. That still has been not solved. And as scholars say, there's a culture of distrust between both states on the military projections of each other, which brings us to, this brings us to the 2022 Military League, Chilean military league. So that released some military documents that projected Peronism as a national expansionist and hegemonic movement. So we can see what the military of Chile thinks about Argentina. Antarctic claims, the Antarctic Treaty, as of now, only allows for scientific purposes, to use the land for scientific purposes. The Argentinian claim is superposed entirely by the British claim and also partially by the Chilean claim. Also, and then in 2048, any state participating in the treaty has the right to claim a revision of it. So as of now, it's okay. In 25 years, you will maybe remember this presentation. Last but not least, as I mentioned before, our last military conflict was against the UK with the Malvinas Islands, which are those islands highlighted in blue there. It was a 10-week conflict, and now The UK won the conflict, so now the Malvinas are being used by the British as a NATO and British military base, projecting their power in the South Atlantic. So, analysis of the findings, this is why Argentina provides an exceptional case to study the intersection between domestic and foreign policy, and how, as national interests shift, your own domestic policy may do so too. My argument again, this is why the Argentine legislature is not only a product of state foundational ideas, but also one root in the potential military conflicts that we may face. Thank you.
Questions?
How do you feel like the Argentina's, what do they, I guess I'm confused about why they would want immigrants, or like how that is linked to
Yes.
possible upcoming military.
Yes, so that's why I add my focus. So if you understand this phenomena through the lens of neorealism, you have what we call the security dilemma, which is from defensive realism, which is the approach that Argentina has. It's actually on a blueprint of a document released in 2021 from the Argentinian government. It says that it projects themselves as a defensive military. So you have to understand this as every country trying to enhance their defensive capabilities. How you do this? Having more people, having a bigger economy, and populating the land that you have. So that's why it's very particular that we are the first immigrant receiving country. We are the 8th largest state, but at the same time, we are the 30th most popular country. So we are clearly facing a lack of people.
In your research, did you examine why Argentina would promote immigration and not promote pro-natalist policies within the country? Because I feel like that would be easier, perhaps.
I think it will be easier. I think worldwide now we are facing a very negative trend in the natality rates in the entire world. I would say also it's, for example, for the case of the Russian people, they are coming here and they will be part of the economically active population. So if they become Argentinian, they will already have their own job. So the state will not have to spend money the first 18 years of their life to then have the gains of the citizens.
So you mentioned that you project that there will be conflict and of course sometime in the next 20 years. Do you feel that their turn to immigration policies from Bangladesh is a direct response to the kind of fragility and the sensitivity of the situations? Do you think that the state projects that these conflicts might happen faster than anything?
Yes. So for the sake of time, I didn't include in my research, my focus, I don't want to undermine the progressive nature of Argentina, which I think we do have, and that's why the Constitution of 1853 talks of the inhabitants of the nation. But to your question, I think now I'm approaching a more pragmatical view of the issue, and I forgot the question.
Do you think that the state responds with migration policy because there is fragility in the state of the conflict?
Oh, yes, and especially because our conflicts are in the southern region, which is, again, the less populated area.
We have one question down here, final question.
If you said that Antarctica is basically the treaty stipulates that it's only for scientific purposes, how do you justify Argentina's territorial claim of the continent?
So it's not only Argentina. I think now we have around 12 claims. The treaty says that the treaty may be claimed to be obsolete as soon as 2048, so it's in 25 years. I am aware that, we have the British, we have Japanese claims, we have a lot of different countries. I wish Antarctica will still be used for scientific purposes, but again, through a neo-realist perspective, I anticipate superpowers to try to take advantage of Antarctica, because unlike the Arctic, Antarctica is actually a continent. So it has soil and it has natural resources underneath the ice field that can be exploited.
Not just Thailand.
All right, thank you.